Hi, it's Justin here again, talking about Roger, my Landroid robot lawnmower. And I'm recording this in June 2024, and the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference has talked about new releases for the Apple HomeKit system, including connections to robot vacuums. But no talk about robot lawnmowers just yet, which is a shame. So in my previous video, I talked about a Homebridge plugin for the Landroid that allowed you to control it through Apple Home. Uh, Unfortunately, that no longer works. And so I've done some work based on the developer's instructions to get the Landroid working in Apple Home, and I've now succeeded. It wasn't as straightforward as you would hope, so I thought I would record this video to demonstrate how it works. But before we get into too many details, I thought I might show you the end result. So here's a slightly modified screenshot of my controls for Roger. And as you can see, there's an option for a low battery signal. The contact sensor reports when there's an error. The garage door tells you when the robot is home. The motion detector tells you when the robot is returning home along the guide wire. And the leak sensor, not surprisingly, tells you when the rain delay is functioning. As for the switches, you can turn party mode on and off directly from Apple Home. You can start the lawn mower on its program cycle. You can start it on an edge cycle. You can tell the lawnmower to return, and there's also an option for a safe return, which automatically cuts out the mower blades on its return, which is quite a nice feature if you've got animals or kids out and about and you're worried about them. And of course, you can pause the programming at any point. So I found these buttons and these sensor controls really useful. It's a slight modification from the default, so I'll talk you through some of that in a moment. So all of the links and the detailed instructions you'll find in the description for this video. So probably best to have a look at those as you're watching, and I'm only going to use the screen for demonstrations of the major content where it needs a visual description. I'm not going to go through screen captures of all the commands and so forth. You can do that yourself following the text instructions in the description. So have a look at those as you're watching from here. Also, I'm making the assumption that you've already set up your Landroid through the Landroid app on your iPhone or other device, because you'll need an account with Landroid for all of this to work. So we'll kick off with the talk through how to do all of this right now. So first off, I've provided a link in the description to the Homebridge Landroid plugin, which is no longer working, but the developer Normen has provided a rundown on how to make your Landroid work with Apple Home using the FHEM home automation system. Now, a lot of the information ultimately is in German, so it does require a bit of translation. Google Translate worked for me, but there is a bit of information missing in the instructions, so that's what we'll work through here. So as you can see on the screen, Norman's overview is that we need to install FHEM, then we need to install the HOMEBRIDGE-FHEM plugin, and then we need to configure FHEM to work with your Landroid lawnmower, which is quite right. But there's a fair bit of detail that's required to make all of that happen. So let's get started with installing FHEM. So on the screen, this is the FHEM installation webpage translated into English, and I'm using a Raspberry Pi, and I've already got my Homebridge server running on this. And in fact, following these instructions worked straight out of the box, which was wonderful. Now, I probably should have mentioned you do need to use the command line interface on your Raspberry Pi to do this. And of course, if you're used to Homebridge, you'll know that Homebridge can provide you with a command line interface if you need it, if you don't know how to use the command terminal. And the only other thing you need to know, of course, is that using the super user do command, sudo, service FM start and stop starts and stops the service as you would expect. So following the cookbook here works perfectly. So next we need to install the HOMEBRIDGE-FHEM plugin. Like all other HOMEBRIDGE plugins, if you search on FHEM, you'll find the verified one with the most recent date. I've got it here, version 0.5.38. If you click the blue installer icon on the bottom right of the panel, that will work, and just use the standard settings. There's no special configuration required here. Provided, of course, you're running this FHEM server on your Homebridge server. It will work as described. If you're on a different IP address, then you will need to configure that, and I'll leave that up to you to work out. Now that we have FHEM installed on our server, and we've got the Homebridge plugin for FHEM installed in Homebridge, it's time to configure the FHEM server to run the Landroid lawnmower service, the Siri name service, and set up a HomeKit room. Now, there is this web page that I've got on screen which provides you with the overview, but I found that a fair bit of the detail was missing. So I'm going to step through some of that in pictures here, and of course all of the details again are in the description that accompanies this video. So this is the interface on screen for the FHEM server on your device. So you need to access this through a web browser. The URL will be the same as you use for your Homebridge server using port 8083. So in my case, it's homebridge.local:8083/FHEM, and this server appears. You might need to insert a different IP address if you're running your FHEM server on a different device. So what you need to be aware of with the FHEM server is that all the commands, all the text commands to modify and adapt your server go into the white text box at the top of this web page, and then is executed when you hit the return or enter key. So in the description, I've got the various commands that you need to use to implement the MQTT Works module, to set it up with the password and username that you have on the Works server. That's what you use when you're entering your username in the Landroid app. Then you also need to set up the Siri server and define your HomeKit room. Again, you'll find all of those commands in the instructions in the definition accompanying this video. Now, if all of that has worked, you should see on your server screen the same as I have here, a HomeKit room in the list on the left, as well as the MQTT2 device, which is actually where the Landroid is found. So you should have a screen very similar to this, and now it's time to move on and set up your Landroid itself. So first we need to make sure that the FHEM server is talking to the Landroid server. So on the menu on the left, we need to click on the Everything link, and you should see this display. Then when we look at the MQTT client to the MTTT_works, if that isn't already open, then we need to click on the MQTT_works link to connect to the Landroid server. So when you've clicked on that link, you should see this screen, and at the top you'll see set MQTT_works, and then a range of options if they're in the drop-down box: connect, disconnect, and other things. So select connect and then click on set to activate that particular command to connect to the Landroid server. So now we click on the MQTT2_device link that's in the menu on the left, and you should see the screen that's displayed at the moment. And then you can click on the mower icon, which will then take you to your lawnmower device. So when you've clicked on the lawnmower, you should see something like this screen, and you'll notice at the top center where it says Set Mower, there's a drop-down list of a number of configured commands. Now we can actually modify these commands, which we'll do in a moment, but you can actually run these commands on your lawnmower directly from FHEM. So you select the command. There may be an adjustment like the rain delay being set to 0, for example, here. And then to activate the command, you click on the set link where it says set mower, and that will activate the command. That's a repeating theme in FHEM, that you configure the command and then you activate the command by clicking a hyperlink at the beginning of the command. And you'll see this again in a moment. But you can see here there's a range of commands pre-configured to turn party mode off, on and off, rain delay, safe home, etc. So a whole range of commands that we can turn into buttons for Apple HomeKit should we choose to. So on that same screen, if you scroll down a fair way, you'll find this part of the screen where it's got ATTR for attribute, mower, and then a drop-down list. So the first thing we want to do is to choose the attribute for the mower and change or configure the room that it's attached to. So if you pick room from the drop-down list and then click in the text entry box next to that command line, you'll get the dialog box open, allowing you to select the rooms that you'd like. So here's the dialog box that I see based on the configuration we've done so far. And the MQTT2 device will already be set, but you need to also select the HomeKit room. Some of the documentation suggests in order for Apple HomeKit to work, you have to have a HomeKit room established and have your, in this case, Landroid device in that HomeKit room. So select all the rooms that are appropriate and then click OK. That's not all. When we go back to the previous screen, we also then need to click the ATTR hyperlink to execute the command. Next, we need to set up the Siri name. So again, at the ATTR mower dropdown, we select Siri name from pretty much the bottom of that list. And then once we've selected that, we should have access to a text entry box, and we enter the name that we want to give our Landroid. In my case, I've called it Roger_the_Roid. That name will appear in your Apple Home whenever there's a button or a sensor associated with the Landroid. Again, it's important to remember to execute this command by clicking on the ATTR hyperlink. Otherwise, this command won't take effect. Next, we need to set up the generic device type. This is the type of button that will appear in HomeKit, and it's best that it appears as a switch. So again, where you've got the ATTR mower attribute, then select generic device type from the drop-down list, and then from the drop-down list, select switch. Again, once you've selected switch, you then also need to click on the hyperlink ATTR to activate that particular command. Now, the next attribute that we're going to adjust is the set list. Now, this appears a bit higher in the attribute drop-down grouping, and also this directly affects the commands that you can access through FHEM, and also the commands that you can activate ultimately through a button in HomeKit. So this is quite a sensitive adjustment, and all we're going to do is to add some additional commands to those that are already there. So select Set List from the attribute, and then if you click on the text box in the top of the screen, you will see a text entry box like this. So you will already have commands in this text entry box, and we shouldn't change any of those. But in the description, in the detailed instructions associated with this video, I've got some additional commands to put at the bottom of this list. You can see them on the screen here. Once you've added those new commands in, then you click on the OK button at the bottom of this text entry box. And again, in order to activate these new attributes, you still need to click the ATTR hyperlink on the command line when this dialog box closes. Now, the final configuration, we need to set up the Homebridge mapping, which basically makes the connection between the Apple Home buttons and how they interact with the set list commands that we set up just a moment ago. So from the attributes command line, we need to select Homebridge mapping from the drop-down list, then click in the text entry box at the top of the screen to open the text entry dialog. Now, it's entirely possible this will be blank when you first configure FHEM. So we need to include the various commands for our Homebridge settings. Again, the full text is in the instructions that I've attached in the description of this particular video. So copy those into the text entry dialog box and then click OK. And then again, to activate this particular attribute, you need to click on the ATTR hyperlink to make it take effect. So now that we've configured FHEM, we've configured it in memory, but we haven't actually stored it permanently. So to save all of the configurations that we've made, you need to click on the Save Config hyperlink in the menu on the top left of the screen, and then everything should be stored safely. So now that we've installed FHEM and we've installed the Homebridge plugin, we've configured the FHEM server to talk to our Landroid, it's time to restart Homebridge. So if all's gone to plan, in your default room where Homebridge sets up all its new accessories, you should now find a switch and a set of sensors that control your Landroid. Now initially, unfortunately, all the switches will appear as a single switch, and you would need to go into its configuration and then select Show as separate tiles to see each of the switches separately. In my case, there was no differentiation between the names of each of the buttons. So there was some trial and error to configure each of the buttons and rename them according to the function. But I outlined the functions earlier, and in fact, here they are on screen for you now to take note of as you test. So as you can see, this is quite a detailed set of instructions to work through. I haven't really got any great advice for problem solving other than to go through the instructions step by step and make sure that each component of the instructions are followed and works. So good luck if you're following these along. I hope they work for you as well as they have for me. And I'm hoping that I can do a few follow-up videos soon to show you some other projects associated with my Landroid. For example, I have a Zigbee switch that controls whether my Landroid goes to the front garden wire or the back garden wire. And we've also got an electronic gate that allows the Landroid to go up one of our paths without hindrance, and a sensor to detect when the Landroid is approaching the gate to allow it through. So hopefully I'll get a chance to record those videos in the next little while and post them here in case they're things that you might want to do. Anyway, good luck with your Landroids and your integration into Apple Home. Thank you for watching and take care.